It's time for us to walk through the deep dive. So we've got 10 more items that you can optimize on your LinkedIn profile. Here we go. Work experience. Add details about your current and former jobs. For former jobs, accentuate aspects that directly relate to your current role. I find this is very helpful, right? It's nice to show that we've had jobs consistently over time, but you're not actually applying for a job here. People are checking you out to see if you can solve their problem. So I would say whatever it is that you're doing right now, if you've had previous jobs, I remember once talking to a guy, he's like, well, I was a bartender. I'm like, well, what kind of aspects of being a bartender help you solve problems for people or develop relationships or whatever those things might be? And so we kind of tweaked some of the things about his experience that really just shed light on the parts that really accentuate, is the word I think I use, your current role. So let me just look really quick here at my profile. Actually, let me get this out of the way here. We'll pull this over. So here's my profile. What you'll see if you look at me, I remember once I was actually talking to a guy who checked me out on LinkedIn. He was like, Brett, you're all over the place. So let's look back here from the beginning, right? I actually worked construction before I even got a job out of college, but I worked in software, and then I was a full-time real estate investor, and then I owned a tile outlet with a buddy of mine, a franchise, and I became, technically I became a realtor for a little while I was doing CE training for realtors. These two kind of happened at the same time, and I was providing consulting in real estate. And then I went to Safeco, and then I went to the Hartford, and now here I am back at Boss Social. So the thing is what do we do here? Well, on these, there's a couple of things you can do. When you click the pencil, we'll go in there in a second, but you can see I have sentences. I have words here. I want all of these words to really highlight not just what I do, but maybe emphasize the main keywords that I want my profile to be visible for. So maybe sales is consistency, or maybe the word insurance. Like if you're in insurance, you want to make sure that you've got, I would want to make sure I have the word insurance in these sections, because in fact, maybe I haven't done that good job here. Brett built social media marketing training program for Safeco Bricks and Clicks, developed consulting to independent insurance. I guess I have it there, but I probably could put that word in a couple more times in places. We call that keyword density. But keyword proximity is also important, which means you've got the keywords in different sections. So there's kind of this whole game you can play on how to optimize the page for search. And I would say if you feel comfortable attacking it at that level, then that's great. But honestly, if you don't even want to care about it, it's not the end of the world. Mostly what you want to do is just make sure that when you click on this stuff, you're writing information in here that's going to further develop the relationship. So here's what I did. I said, how many sales producers and agencies struggle to utilize social media to market and generate solid leads? Well, I make that problem go away. And so what I'm doing is I'm just starting that conversation with someone as they're reading that. This wasn't a list of I developed videos and delivered training and spoke at events. And to me, I'm personally less interested in giving you a catalog of all the things I'm doing, because I'm not trying to get a job. I'm trying to convince you to trust me. And so I'm using this as an opportunity to maybe answer some of the common questions that I see that you are going to have. So it's a very subjective space here. The main thing is make sure that you complete this for all of the stuff that you're doing. And then I think there's another section right here, work samples. You can actually, just like yesterday, we added the media to the about section at the top. You can also add stuff at the level of every single job. So at the very bottom, it says media. And so I can upload stuff, right? So this might be a better place if I wanted to. I had that, this one, I shared this one yesterday. Maybe actually this would be a fun one to put in here. Learn directly from Brett. And, I would fill this in more properly with words that say, helping the insurance sales producers leverage their social media for sales and retention. See, I'm going to make a call to action here. Visit www.boss-social.com to learn more, or just send. I never know if I should talk in first person or third person in these, so I kind of go back and forth. I probably should be more consistent. Send Brett, I'll do both, me, a message. So now what I've done here is I'm going to click apply. And so now I've got a little bit more meat on the bones of this job description. So I'm going to click save. Now for myself, I don't like having the same picture multiple times. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Oh, I guess I didn't click save enough. I have to click save twice. And then I'm actually going to go up to where we were at yesterday in this one, and I'm going to delete this one just because why not? I don't want that picture twice. If I had a different picture, I might leave it both in there. Again, we're just creating moments and places for people to connect with us. So now when we look at this profile here and I zoom down, right, and I start looking at these job descriptions, now I see this learn directly from Brett. I wonder what this is. And I'm going to click on this and I'm going to see here. Now, they don't honor the URLs in these links, which kind of makes me sad, but at the same time, I still put them in there. One of these days, I'm going to log in and LinkedIn's going to turn those into links. I'm going to say thank you guys for actually doing your job. Okay, so really what we're talking about here, work experience, work samples, is just completing each of these sections, adding some pictures, or again, it might be up here, the stuff we shared was really high level and you want to get into the nitty gritty, right? So here's something where you can get a little bit more nitty gritty. Maybe even your carriers have got some really cool white papers or handouts and things like that for specific niches. And so you could say, I write insurance in these niches, and then you just put some resources here. You're just making it easier for the person to get stuff from you to establish some gratitude. Okay, so that's that one. Education. Provide your education experience. Many people feel fictive kinship to others who attended the same school or studied the same things. Have we talked about fictive kinship yet? I can't remember which video. I've shot so many videos in the last few days. I can't remember which one. I actually think in the buyer's journey. So in 3 days from now, we're going to talk a lot about fictive kinship. So for now, I'm just going to say Google it, and then you'll get my little soapbox on that in a while. But basically, you know what it means, right? We have camaraderie with people who we went to school with. And so go down here to, let's get this out of the way a little bit more, to your education. Make sure that you add that in there, right? Go ahead and edit this one. And look at this. They actually have a media thing there. Maybe you got an award. Maybe you had a scholarship. Maybe it was a long time ago, but it's stuff that's establishing your ethos and your credibility. So that's something. Or you want to do a throwback picture that shows you back in the day. Like for me, when I had a illustrious head of hair, I could find a picture and put that in there, and that might create some connection, right? More Velcro for people to stick to when it comes to establishing a relationship. Now, one of the things you're going to see is as I'm doing this on the bottom, it says share with your network, off or on. There's this button here that says when you make changes, if this is on, it's actually going to announce to all of your connections, hey, Brett just added, an education piece, or Brett just got a new job. I would say when you're doing something and you really want the whole world to know, like, oh, I got a new job, then make sure that's turned on. For me personally, when I'm making all these little edits, I actually just keep this off. But I would say, it just depends on how visible you want to be when it comes to giving people an insight into the fact that you're working on your LinkedIn profile. All right, so there's that one. So in the education, just put some stuff in there and make sure you've got that completed. A lot of this stuff is just getting it completed. Other sections, right? To stand out even more, add other awards, accomplishments, and service rendered. Complete all the additional sections in your profile. I know I mentioned this yesterday, but I just want to make sure I mention again in case you skip that one and I have to shame you. But all of these pencils on the left are going to give you instructions. So for example, in education, right, we can click this and it's going to open up a window that talks about all the instructions for doing that on whatever device you have. So I put that in there just because I thought it would be helpful. And this stuff is always changing. And so part of the reason I'm linking to them here is because they update it here. So that way, as this evolves, my hope is these links, right? Maybe what I'm saying looks a little different if it's been in the future a bit between when I record this video and you're watching it, but hopefully these links on the side are going to continue to take you to the best instructions on how to do those things. So that's important, these little magnifying glasses. Other sections, right? So you've got volunteers and, and different things like that. Like this is an example of basically a little campaign that I was involved with that I thought, it's just something I'm really proud of. I had a chance to help a family that had a boy with cancer, and we did all this work and we helped to make some money. And so for me, I thought, you know what, that's kind of a nice volunteer experience. I donated a lot of my time and skills and just, I don't know, we do things sometimes because we're good humans and we like other humans. And so letting people see that, it seems like LinkedIn is rewarding your profile with greater visibility when you have more of this stuff completed. So complete the other sections. Skills and endorsements, those are the next section. So skills and endorsements, there's kind of different ways that we can do this. There's skills and endorsements, and then there is recommendations. So skills and endorsements, you can add all the skills that you want. That was at the top, all the things you know how to do. Right here, here's the services that you provide. So I guess that's a little bit different than skills. But if I scroll down here, this is new. I actually haven't done this yet, so I'm not really sure, but I'm sure it just helps you to complete this. Let's take a peek real quick. So there's some quizzes. You can take some quizzes and stuff. It's just ways that LinkedIn is working to help you add more information about your profile. But for the most part is add some skills. So what you want to do is put in a lot of the keywords for the things that you do the best. It's got some suggestions here. And so you can just type these in, right? I can type in the word insurance and it's going to auto-populate all of the words, all of these different words related to the word insurance. So you're going to pick a bunch of those that are relevant to the kinds of services you provide. Same thing if you were in real estate, right? I could type in real estate and it's going to find a bunch of, I guess I have to spell it right, real estate. And then you can see there's all these different terms. So you could put in, maybe do a lot in real estate financing. So you click that one and then now that's on your list, right? So I add that to my list and then I have that skill in there. So we can look right here, we'll do show more, and it shows all the skills that I say that I have skills in. And then what happens is other people will endorse these. So it's kind of a little gamification thing where every once in a while you'll see something pop up that says, does Brett know social media? And then you go, oh yeah, he does. And you click yes. And then what happens is, so you can see right here, over 99 people have endorsed me for marketing. So I can click on that and it's actually going to show me all of those people. And what I love about this is these are real people. So it might be that you know some of these people. And it might be that, let's pick someone. Let's talk about someone and give a hard time. Okay, so Mike Winterbauer. I love Mike Winterbauer. So he is a graphic design artist that I met when I worked at Safeco. But let's say, Mike, hopefully you'll laugh if you ever watch this. Let's say he goes postal, right? And he does something that's just not appropriate for society. And I am now embarrassed. Mike would never do this, but let's say he did. And I don't want people to know that he's endorsed me. I can actually just turn this off. And so now, even though he's endorsed me, he won't know it, but he'll no longer show up. Now, of course, Mike would never do anything like that. He's one of the kindest and coolest dudes I know. So I'm going to leave that one invisible. But what you can see here is you can change some of those things here. You've got some options. So just remember that on this whole gamification of skills and endorsements, we're basically trying to get other people to vouch for us. So then when someone comes to check us out, they look at all this stuff and they're thinking, wow, what are some of the other things here, right? We have these different terms. So I've had over 99 people again endorse me for social media marketing. So that's that one. It's just worth it to think about the top 10 or 25 terms that are important for your work and put them in here and give people a chance. Now there is another option here. Let me see if it's still where it used to be. Yep, it is. Okay. So if you want to adjust whether people have the opportunity to endorse you or not, you actually can control that. So again, what's happening here is someone's using LinkedIn and this thing pops up and says, does Brett know social selling? Well, when you click the pencil here in the skills endorsement section, at the bottom it says adjust endorsement settings. And if you click this one, you say, do you want to be endorsed? Do you want this gamification turned on? Do I want people to be able to endorse me? No, I don't want anyone to endorse me. Yes, I do. And then include me in endorsement suggestions to my connections. So do you want your name to show up in the lives of your connections? Yes. And now this is where we can be a little bit hypocritical if we want. Yes, I want people to endorse me, but I don't want to bother with this. I can actually turn this off. So now I'm never going to see a suggestion for anyone else. Now, I don't know why you would ever want to do that. Maybe there's a case for it. To me, if you can virtually pat someone on the back, right? If it pops up and says, does Stacy know social media? And I want to say, yes, of course she does. I would love for her. She's going to be notified, right? If I click that and I endorse someone, it's going to say, hey, Brett endorsed you. It's just a nice little small way that we can connect and engage with other people. So for me, I like it turned on. I like to be able to endorse other people, but you've got that option. All right, so that's that one. Recommendations. Okay. The next thing we have on our list, boy, today's a little heavier than yesterday. Yesterday was just like a little here, a little there. Recommendations. Here's another thing. Now, I think when LinkedIn first came out, they wanted you to give people recommendations, right? They wanted for you to be able to say, this person's awesome. You can see here, I've received 26. I've given 22. I find that when you give them, you get them back. There's a lot of ways, and maybe we should do a separate training sometime on like ways to get recommendations. But what I've found in general, let's see what I write here. Give and seek recommendations to generate even stronger social proof. Make a plan to give referrals. This is what I was looking for. You have to actually make a plan. So once this training is all over in the next couple of weeks and you're just in the weekly by and by, I would say one of the good things to do, and I'll give you a hint for this later in the future, but is make a plan. So think about, who have I worked with this week? Who could I just take a couple seconds and publicly let them know and their connections know how much I appreciate them? It's just, we have to start doing it. And if you just give and give and give, I've found that some people just don't like that they owe you a favor, and they will just do one in return just to probably ease their own conscience. But what I found is if you give, you get them back. How do you do it? So you'll see here that when we're in this recommendation section, you might say, Brett, man, you've been going a lot of different places here. I don't even know where we are anymore. So let me go all the way to the top of this page. So we are on our profile page, and we're just going to scroll down all the way down. Okay. And what we've got here is it says ask for a recommendation, right? So I can edit the existing ones, or I can ask for a recommendation. So if I wanted to get one, then I can click ask. Who do you want to ask, right? And this is where I could write in someone's name, and it's going to pop up. You have to be connected to them. So let's say, thinking about a buddy of mine, maybe he just has it under Rich. Well, we'll use Ritual. Ritual's a really nice guy. We select the relationship, right? We were in different companies, right? And so we can just figure out all this stuff out and move forward, stepping through this process. Now, here's what I find. And now I can write a little message that says, hey, Rich, could you write me a recommendation? Here's what I find. If you just do this on LinkedIn without actually talking to the person first, it doesn't work as effectively. What I would do, my recommendation is, as you're meeting with people and you wow them and they feel appreciation for you, take advantage of that. So just think over this week, saying, you know what, I want to get a recommendation or two. So either find people who just love you and you know they'll do it, and ask them. And then when you ask them, so you know what, I was hoping, I'm trying to get a few more recommendations on LinkedIn. would you be willing to write me one? And they're usually going to say, sure, but I don't really know how to do that. And that's when you say, don't worry about it. I'm going to go into LinkedIn. I'm going to have it send you a request. And that's when you take these steps. And so right in here, I would say, hey, Rich, remember how the other day we were talking about you being willing to give me a recommendation? Thanks so much in advance. Here's that message I told you I'd send you. And then when I click send, it's going to send him that message. And he's going to get that. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's that thing Brett talked about. So use it in conjunction. You're going to get a lot more of them. The other thing is when you're looking at recommendations, you want to give them. So let me close out of this. Okay, so moving along, we have the topic of recommendations. So we want to give and seek recommendations to generate even stronger social proof, more than what we get from the endorsements. The endorsements are nice little, they're kind of like little virtual pats on the back, like, you're so great, you're so great. But the recommendations are when people really go out of their way to say how wonderful we are, or just recommend us for whatever. And so what we want to do is we want to be a little more strategic in getting these. So on your profile, you'll find them at the bottom. So we're going to just go all the way down here, right? We were just talking about skills and endorsements, but now we're at recommendations. And so I'm going to click show more. And what you'll see here is here's all of the recommendations that I've received. Here's all the recommendations that I've given. And so it's an opportunity for us to let people know who we appreciate, and then also get recommendations from people who have said nice things about us. So if you want to ask for a recommendation, here's my recommendation on how to get a recommendation. First off, maybe don't focus on getting recommendations. Actually focus on giving recommendations. I would say this week, think about who have you worked with in the last 5 or 6 days that wowed you, that you could say something nice about. Go to their LinkedIn profile and give them a recommendation. So here's my example. This is my friend, actually my old business partner, and my old college roommate, actually, Rich Van Komen. I'm using him for example because we're just such good friends I don't even have to ask for his permission to talk about him in this video. In fact, I'll have to send him this video and he'll go chuckle out of it. But the thing is he's someone that I might want to recommend. Maybe we had an exchange in the last week or so. And for me, obviously, I'm going to talk to him about sprucing this up a little bit so he looks a little fancier. But on the more button, see the more button here? There is an option called recommend. And so it's right here where we can recommend them. So we select what is our relationship, right? We worked in different companies. And then what was his position at the time? I'm going to click next. And then I write my recommendation. Now, I know Rich, and he doesn't use LinkedIn as that much. It could be 3 weeks before he even sees this. So what I have found is a lot of times if I'm going to give someone a recommendation, I'm actually greasing the wheels so maybe they'll give one in return. I'm a little devious. I'm not against that. And so what you might do is actually have a conversation. So I would call Rich up and say, Rich, I was looking on LinkedIn the other day and I noticed I have never given you a recommendation. Would you like that? Would you mind? And of course they're going to say, well, that's a silly question. Of course I would like that. And so you say, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to give you a recommendation. So watch for that. And you could leave it at that, right? If you're just super humble. Or you might say, hey, you know what? And if you ever get a chance, return the favor. And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to. Or, they don't say anything and there's a long, awkward pause. Who knows? But in this situation, I've already talked to him. So now I'm going to write that recommendation that I'm going to send him, and he knows it's coming. And that's deepening the relationship between us because I told him I was going to do something nice and then I did something nice. And so just know that if you were to make a habit of saying nice things about people in the form of a recommendation, maybe once or twice a month on a regular basis over time, you're going to have given a lot of recommendations. Some of those people are going to have given them in return, and it's going to help your profile. If anything, people are going to get a sense for you a little bit as, I like to write what people say about other people as much as what people have said about them. So I guess what I want to say to begin with is if you just focus on giving, that works really well. But there is times that you want to ask for one. And so in these situations, same thing, maybe someone, you've really wowed them and you want to get a recommendation for them that they can put on LinkedIn. In this situation, again, I would talk to him in real person, not even just on the phone. I would try to talk to him and say, you know what, I would notice on LinkedIn, I've been trying to use a little bit more and might have a little discussion about how they feel about LinkedIn. And then say, you know what, it would really be helpful for me, and I'd really appreciate it. Especially if they've just said one of those things like, you've helped me so much. If there's anything I could ever do for you, let me know. And you say, well, you know what? There is one thing. It's not that big of a deal. It's actually pretty simple. You were just saying that you really appreciated the service I gave you. Would you be willing to write a recommendation on LinkedIn that I could post on there? And they will say typically, certainly, but I don't know how to do that. I don't mind doing it, but I don't really know how to do that. And then this is where you say, oh, it's no big deal. I'm actually going to go into the LinkedIn platform. I'm going to have it send you an email. It's a request for the recommendation. So you'll get that in the next little bit. And they go, oh, okay. And this is what you do. You go in here, right? So I'm on my profile. I go down to my recommendations and I say, ask for a recommendation. And this is where, in this situation, we'll use Rich again as an example. I would type in his name. And again, fill out this stuff. What was the relationship, what was my position at the time, and then now I have this chance to write him this little message. And in this message, that's when I would say, hey, the other day we were talking about that you might be willing to give me a referral or a recommendation. Here's that email I said I'd sent. Thanks you in advance. You're the best. Yada, yada, yada. And you got yourself some recommendations. So recommendations are a lot easier to get and give than we realize. It's just we haven't prioritized it. So I would say, yes, you could make a list of your top 10 favorite people, but often it's just being a little bit more self-aware, my brain is melting. I need to go eat lunch. Cognizant of the situation. So when something happens during the week and it's very positive, you say to yourself, oh, you know what? I should give them a recommendation. Or, man, they asked if they could ever do anything for me. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It's like, no, worry about it. Take advantage of that opportunity. There's a great social psychologist named Bob Cialdini who talks about the power it actually lessens over time. When someone says thank you, there's this moment, there's this power where you can actually take advantage of that. Not take advantage of them, but take advantage of the power of that moment when they say thank you. And then as they're expressing that gratitude, you can cash in on that and ask them to do something for you, right? A lot of times we use that power to get referrals. Hey, is there anyone that I could help? But I would say it's even simpler to get them to just restate what they've already said in the form of a recommendation. I've even been maybe this is too brutal, but when I send them the note, sometimes I even will highlight the awesome things that I've done to make it very, very clear to them. Yeah, I did this for you and I did this for you and I did this for you. I'm glad you appreciate it. And then, it gives them a lot of food for thought to influence what they're going to write about you. But most often we don't have to be that contrived. So that's your endorsements or the recommendations. Go ahead and make a plan to give referrals and recommendations. This says referrals. That's a typo. I need to change that to recommendations. And there you go. Okay, the next item, engage others. Take a few minutes each week. Now, this isn't something you just do today. This becomes more of a practical thing. Now, one of the things that you're going to see is I'm actually going to be asking you to look at these checklists on a regular basis once this initial training period is over. And so that's what these last three are really about. So I'm just going to mention them here, but I'm going to say for today, I wouldn't stress over these too much. We'll come back to these. But the first one here, or the last three, take a few minutes each week to engage your connections posts. Like, comment, and reshares. Showing up shows you care. Okay, what we're going to do here, the strategy is once your profile looks good and you're connected with all of your clients and your friends and your referral partners, actually go in here every once in a while and just spend some time. Kind of like the recommendation, but we're just giving them love in the form of a like and a comment and a reshare. And these are touch points. They're virtual touch points. Yes, they're a fraction as powerful as real in life touch points where you meet with someone, you have a real conversation, but they are real and they make a difference over time. The second one is post content. Share content each week that helps your prospects see you as their guide and helps them progress along their buyer's journey. Okay, we're going to spend a couple of days on this, so don't stress over it now. Just know this is what's coming. I'm going to share with you how you can share content on a regular basis. And if you really want to go heavy beyond social posts, the truth is LinkedIn is a blog, right? If you look at your profile, when I go up here, I can look at my posts and activities. So I have articles. And so you can create articles. We talked about this a little bit, but let's just really focus on this for a second. So here's some articles that I've written. And you might think, what? So let's look at the one we mentioned earlier. I don't think I actually clicked on it. This is one we talked about yesterday. Optimizing your LinkedIn profile headline to stand out and get clicks. And so here's the article, right? And you can see here there's indents, there's headlines. I've imported images. Like there's just all this stuff that we can do, right? I've got some comments on there. Your LinkedIn is a blog. You don't have to create a blog. As an individual sales producer, you have your own blog. And you might think, well, how do I create a blog? Well, I'll just tease you with this for now, and then you can mess around with it. But when you go in to create your social post, right? Here's my social post. Well, guess what? Back up a step. Look right here. It says write an article. And so when we click on this, it actually opens up more of a template. And so we can create our own articles. So I put a cover photo on there, right? So let's go back and get, where was that one? Was it this one right here? So we used this one earlier. So here's this picture. Maybe I want to write an article about this new training program that I've just created. And so it's uploading that image right there. I can add a credit and a caption. I can create a headline while I was doing that. So like, do you want to look good online? Okay. Now you'll notice here I can make it. If you're me, I don't want to see myself that big, so I'm going to make myself a little smaller. Some options here. And then here we can write this article, right? And this could be, whatever it is we want. And you'll notice here that we can click here. We can add images. We can embed videos, slides, links, snippets, all these kinds of things. And you can create for yourself actual full-on articles. Every single article is an independent website page that's going to be optimized for what that topic is. Let's see if this comes up. I was just looking at, if I go to Google and I search under Brett Allen and I search under Brene Brown, will it find my LinkedIn article? Okay, look at that, number 1. Check it out. It says, your social selling education won't be complete until you meet Brett Brown. Because I created that article that has my name and her name in it, then there's actually a page on the internet that has that information. And so I can click on that and it will take me there, right? See, author. So what you can see is that there's value in creating these individual articles. And so that's what this one's about. We'll get into the strategies on this more later, but just realize that your best stuff, your moments, your stories, there's just a lot of cool things that we can quickly create into articles, publish them on your LinkedIn profile. These will go with you. If you quit working where you're at right now and you go work somewhere else, this stuff all goes with you. And so it's just a really powerful way that we can optimize your profile on a deeper level. And then, like I mentioned earlier, once you've created this article, then we can go back here and in our profile, like we talked about yesterday, we can actually go to this feature section and we can feature it, right? And so there's the example that we just talked about. So that's now featured. All right. Well, this has been a pretty casual conversation. I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives you some insights on how to do all this stuff. Figure out what your score is. Happy to see what your scores are, but really this is more for you. This is your checklist to get this stuff done. And you've got the technical help here. And hopefully this walkthrough video will give you some more insights than maybe you had before. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to say have a wonderful afternoon or morning or whenever it is. Take the time to do this stuff, actually get the work done, and then I will see you in tomorrow's training.